Eremos is more than a name. It's a way of life. It's our sanctuary, our escape from the noise, and our connection to the deeper meaning of our lives. It's about finding joy in the outdoors, seeking growth, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. Welcome to Elevate and Explore, a podcast where we dive into the beauty of nature, self-discovery, and the endless possibilities that come with living intentionally. Welcome to our journey. Well, hello everybody. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ryan.
And we're back for another episode of Elevate and Explore.
I feel like past couple weeks we've elevated and explored a little too much, and I elevated something into my eye and lost vision for a couple days, so we had to buff the podcast session last week, but it brings us some great topics. I think tonight we're going to just dive into some health, wealth, and happiness conversation.
Yes. Yeah, Ryan's mom had brought up a good point of asking us, she has been watching our episodes and, giving us feedback and asking us questions. And one of the questions she asked is if we would be content with the way our lives are right now, if we could continue living the way we are for the rest of our lives, would we be happy? Would we be content? And, I think it brought up a lot in my head. I think it brought up a lot in Ryan's head. And so we wanted to dig into that a little bit. I think that's a important question for us, a lot of us, to ask ourselves, would we be happy where we're at the rest of our lives? Are we doing what we want to do? Do we have purpose? Are we happy? So let's, dive into that a little bit.
So my mother, being a very forward person, I give her all the credit for everything in my life. She's definitely been the positive figure, but we've had some confrontation, and it's probably, in my opinion, the greatest elevation story out there is the relationship I've had with my mom. So when she comes to me and Aaron and asking this question, I would like to ask you, what went through your head thinking about that? Is if you had this moment for the rest of your life, would you be content? What, say, was your frustrations or things that you would not want or not consider yourself happy if you had, years from now?
I laid there and, I was laying in bed when I read it and laid there and thought about it for a little bit. And there's definitely, I'm definitely blessed with a lot of things in my life. There's definitely a lot that I have in my life that I would not change for anything right now. So, if I had to continue on living the way I am, I would be fairly content. Not where I want to be yet, but I'd be content. But there's definitely some things that I want to get rid of, mainly internal things. Just still some self-doubt, still have a lot of, I'll do great for a couple weeks and then freaking slack off for a couple weeks. So if I could get rid of those types of things. But as for like my environment, my family, my work life, my wealth, the opportunities that I have, there's honestly not much. If I had to continue living the way I am, I think I would be pretty content. I'm definitely super blessed and, have a lot of opportunities and a lot of people in life. And, I'm very fortunate, and I, thank the Lord for that, just about every day. So more things that I would want to change is kind of more internal things as opposed to external sources. Of course I want more wealth, more notoriety in the area, have more connections, have more opportunities to go on vacation. But if I couldn't have any of that, I think I'd be okay.
So you talk about some of these internal things, and you could argue that these internal things are based off of your environment to an extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe your past life that you still have habits that you just haven't kicked. And habits could be everything from drinking a six-pack, smoking a pack of cigarettes, or just waking up every day and not being grateful for what you have, or not choosing. I would tell you that one of my things is like, am I content in everything that I do? 90% of it. But some of the way I react to a situation is like the old me, or say the
Yeah.
devilish thoughts trying to claw its way out and take hold of the situation, when in reality I just sometimes need to retract myself from a situation and really find some of those key things is health. I'm very healthy, aside from poking an eye out every now and then. Very wealthy in the aspect of I don't have to beg on the street. I don't have to question where my next meal comes from. I don't have to worry about sleeping on a dirty pillow. I don't
Hmm.
have to worry about the health of my dogs as much. They're happy and content, fed, and people around me are taken care of. Then I try and spread as much of my extra, say positivity or uh, just being in a giving mindset. Everything is abundant. I have
Hmm.
everything that I need, therefore I don't need everything else. I saw a video the other day that was like a great representation on kind of where I feel like I started in life. Is you look at a house full of clutter, and it's like, do you think of this house full of clutter as memories, or do you think of it as money spent? And it's like,
Hmm.
well, how
Interesting.
much of how much of that was actually the memory that I enjoy? Say, this trinket that I bought at a state fair, or I don't know, just hunting and fishing tackle. I had the conversation the other day about somebody. He's like, "Oh, we tried getting into fishing, and I bought all the fancy rods and all the tackle and all the gear." And I was like, "Did you catch any fish?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, "Huh, should have just went and bought a couple, weights and some small J hooks and a pack of worms. You would have caught fish." So, in that moment, you start to really appreciate all that you have, and it kind of humbles you that you really don't need much. Um,
No,
some people do, but everything you have in the moment, if you had for the rest of your life, would you be content having? My answer would be yes. I mean, I prayed and I wrote down the picture perfect woman that I would imagine, and I received that. I prayed for, business opportunities or job opportunities, and I received those. And then everything else, if you cannot buy it, you need to build it. And the struggle with building something is it takes time, it takes patience, it takes so much more energy than you ever thought possible. And even if it's a non-monetary type effort where you don't have to spend a bunch of money to do something, it just the time and stress and exhaustion that comes with it to get to a point where you can sit here. Right now I'm sitting next to this pond I built, and sat here thinking like, man, I was so ticked off the day that I buried a skid steer trying to build this pond, but now I got a nice pond to sit next to.
yeah,
Like, it was all worth it. So I have to remind myself that not just daily, but periodically throughout a day, because there are some opportunities that come up, and it's like that clawing and scratching of whether it be an internal person or whether it be, say, the devil coming to try and steal your happiness. And it's unnecessary. If you just sit back and think about it, it's pretty humbling.
oh, for sure. One of the things that I've realized, and I have to keep reminding myself and do constantly over and over, is I just there'll be days where I'm just like, man, I'm not where I want to be just yet, not where I want to be just yet. But yesterday I was sitting here thinking, I was like, man, I am pretty much where I wanted to be this time last year. I was imagining what I wanted to do, different things I want to improve. I'm call it 75% there, of where I wanted to be last year. It's just, some weeks will go by and I don't see any progress. I just feel like I'm, running in a hamster wheel, not getting anywhere. But then I realized like all these little changes have happened over the past year. And I got to sit and remind myself that shit, I am getting there, not as fast as I'd like, which freaking never do. Everything takes time, but we got to stop and remind ourselves and take a look around, see where we really are, and see the things we have been able to build, the things we have been able to achieve, the connections we've been able to make, and realize that maybe we actually are where we wanted to be. Say a year ago, 5 years ago. I think we talked about this. few episodes ago where you were talking about, you were looking at your journal and, you wanted to be, you were looking at your journal from a few years ago and, you wrote down the woman you wanted, the house you wanted, and this and that. And look, now you have it.
Yeah. You talk about where you wanted to be last year as if, I think you even said right before the call, I can't believe it's already June. So we're 6 months into a new year. We
Yeah.
are a year ago from this exact time. And I know that you and I were not doing a podcast. We were not necessarily grinding in the same conversation, but we still had some good talks. And that is 365 days. That's 365 sunrises ago. That's a
Mhm.
lot of sunrises to get to a different period in time. And it's like that amount of consistency that takes time to build up over the course of time doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But in the moment, it feels like forever. And anybody who's got growing kids or anybody who's, say, struggling day to day, it is the instant of a perspective shift compounded over time, and you can end up in a completely different place. Um, there is, and we talk about this all the time, but there's nothing permanent. Every struggle and thing that we faced mere seconds ago is already gone. Um, just life happens quick, and it gives us appreciation of where we're at, where we want to go, and that envisioning of who do I want to be, what do I want to do. That over time it catches up, and if you're not constantly working towards that a little bit every day, then you're going to be stuck there next year and the year
Mhm.
after. If you say today is a different day, and I'm thankful for today being a different day, I got to wake up today. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, for me, the biggest struggle is just staying consistent with things. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Is we have good intentions, we start getting in good routines, and then well, a couple weeks in, something comes up and you fall out of it for a day, and then you get back on, and something else comes up, and it's so easy for us to fall back into old bad habits. Say, I was working out for a while and then, I fell off of that and then I get back on it, and then fall off again and get back on, fall off. You know, Same with eating. I eat great for a little while, then fall off of that for a little while. So consistency, and I know a lot of us struggle with that, and that's probably the biggest thing that keeps us from achieving our goals is lack of consistency.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, um, we used to joke about it in the home gym I got invited to. My mentor, he'd say, "Yeah, come over, we'll work out together." And the sign says dedication. And we sat there and we joked about it. And it's like, we're dedicated as all get out. Like, we are dedicated, but we're not consistent.
Hmm.
And you could be as dedicated as you want to something, but if you aren't consistent, then, you're just kind of living, I don't want to say a fairy tale, but you're definitely not giving it the all, because I think dedication, like many things, is simply passion, and passion doesn't get us everywhere we want to go. I know a lot of people, especially in today's world, we want to love what we do. We want to be passionate about what we do. We want to serve ourselves more than we serve anybody else. And if I'm being honest, I think that is kind of a sinful thought in a sense, because the betterment of not only our lives personally, but those around us, and then humankind as a whole, is to serve and support others. So while our passion, my passion is hunting and fishing. How many people can I serve if I'm out hunting and fishing every day?
Sure.
How many people can I serve? And I think this brings us back to a great point that John brought up is, this relationship in a godly fashion to serve and better others. How can I do that with the path that I'm on? And when you start catering towards the needs of others while taking care of yourself, an unstoppable force is created. And it's that keeps you in balance with purpose and dedication and consistency and happiness. And with that, whatever mission you're on in that same focus is going to bring your health and wealth. And as we already mentioned, happiness. And that is the balance that we find. How do we do all of that at once? And for some of us, I think somebody made the comment the other day, he's like, oh, I can do it all on my own. I commend you, because there are very few people that can do that. But for me, I need people to hold me accountable. I need somebody to tell me when I'm acting dumb. I need somebody to stand up and say, hey, you forgot to do something. I need somebody to stand up and correct me and say, you're on the path of what you were trying to get away from. That's where I think quality partners makes everything in life, from our personal, intimate relationships to our friendships, to our family relationships, to our business relationships. Those people around us are literally helping us mold into the person that we want to become.
100%. I was in so last night I was in a Zoom call, and Bill Walsh was in there. Bill Walsh, look him up. He's a very successful businessman. He's a speaker. He travels all over the country, training all sorts of people. He's a business coach. One of the things that he said, in today's age, we're now going into a collective collaboration, where meaning that we work so much better as a team. Whereas, call it 50 years ago, everybody tried to do all these different things on their own. And what he's finding with all these businesses he works with is when people have this collective collaboration and work together, or even if you don't work directly together, say your friend has a business, whatever, you send each other different leads and whatnot, and you just bounce stuff around instead of trying to do everything on your own. And when you work as a group, as a team, you can grow so much farther, so much quicker than trying to attack everything on your own. So I definitely fully believe in working in a team. I used to hate, or not hate, just highly dislike working with anybody. I was always like, well, I don't need anybody. I can do it my damn self. Once I got rid of that mentality and realized, things are so much more rewarding when you do it with somebody else, as a team, in a joint effort, and you're going to go so much farther. So I fully believe in that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know personally, I struggle, and I can deal with, kind of hardships better alone, because it's me and nobody else around. I'll sacrifice, I'll suffer, right? And in that mentality, it becomes very hard to celebrate when you're alone. Nobody wants to be sitting in the corner waving your own little flag because something great happened. You want to enjoy victory with somebody else. And when you enjoy victory with somebody else, there's a very likely chance that you're going to kind of have some of that suffering and struggling better with somebody else. Just
Oh,
the
heck yeah.
same. You can share the workload, you can share the stress, you can kind of get in this groove where you are not alone. You can pull yourself out of it a lot faster if you've got somebody there with you. And I think there's a lot of people that I've met that are very isolated, that are very good people, but they are very solitary. And that does something to the body, it does something to the mind, and it has a very high potential to make you a very bitter and negative type person. And I said today, one of my biggest conflicts now is trying to receive words of encouragement or words of accountability from somebody, because I've never experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
I have almost an immediate instinct to want to be defensive in either position. If somebody gives me an affirmation, I become defensive. And if somebody gives me a remark of accountability, I become defensive. And that's not fair to either one of those people. It's not fair to myself. And as a team, you can start to see how somebody else handles the situation and how they react. And then once that rubs off a few times, it starts molding you into that type of person you're asking for.
I think that defensiveness is almost a learned behavior throughout your life that been used as a way to not get hurt, whether it's good or bad. You always, I think you always like to do things alone. Knowing you, for the past 10 years, a lot of things you were very good at doing things on your own. You didn't need anybody, and now getting that external validation, or critiquing, I think you still maybe sometimes struggle taking that, which I do too. Sometimes I don't know how to take, like, oh, good job. Like it's weird sometimes. It sounds terrible that we can't take a freaking compliment, but it's true. There's a lot of people out there that struggle with that. When we tried to do things for so long on our own, and then getting into the collaborative things and working as teams, it's definitely different. But what I found is, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Um, having someone there for the good times is great, but you touched on a little bit. Having someone there for the bad times, I think that's even better. I used to never want to call anybody and tell somebody I had a bad day, or tell somebody I'm feeling this kind of way or that kind of way, or a negative way. And now that I have people, people like you, I have a couple other friends I can call, when I'm just down in the dumps, and it's nice to be able to go and talk to somebody when you're having negative thoughts and not, you're 100%. So, it does go both ways. It's not just being in a team for the positive things, but being in a team that you can throw around, when you're just not fully there and you need a little support, you need a little pick me up. So it definitely goes both ways.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the bad habits earlier. I mean, that is a bad habit. It is habitual. It is
Mm-hmm.
almost shy of an instinct now. And as you grow up with that from a child to an adult, we didn't have um, that positivity in that moment as a child, and it just developed and it stuck with us. And there's so many people that are that way. And as I mentioned earlier, like the relationship with my mother, you know, it was very challenging as a young adult, and didn't have a dad. I didn't have a whole lot of great positive male models around. I had a couple, and I'm very grateful that I had those couple. But at the time, I did not see how they reacted to it
Yeah.
because they hadn't experienced that. So it's like I didn't trust their opinion on that. So now, hearing somebody tell you that they're proud of you, hearing somebody tell you that you're appreciated and you're doing a good job, it's almost like you receive it as sarcasm. It's almost as if you receive it as a rough, kind of harsh remark that was not intentional or meant heartfelt. And getting past that shield is opening up new opportunities, because now it's like, okay, the moment you start raising kids, you see it hits you like a damn hammer the second you're around a young child who's flourishing. And it's like, wait a minute, that could have been me in that situation had I had the love and kindness and respect that I wanted. And fueling into that, making sure that they become the type of person that can accept it. I think whether it be a family member child, or just some kid running out on the street, is like, just be kind to everybody. Don't be bitter. And no matter how hard it is to cover it up and throw some dirt on it for the time being, take it, throw some dirt on it, but also vent that out in the open and get somebody else's feedback on that has been truly helpful for me. It's like, I feel a certain way because of this, but I said something completely different than the way I felt. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think feelings and talking, especially us being men, talking about our feelings, it's not taboo, but just not the norm. And especially our age group, with the people who raised us, it was even 10 times worse then. You never talked about feelings, especially your guy. You never would admit you cried. You would never cry in front of anybody. Um, but I think it's getting easier nowadays. It's more accepted, even though it should just, everybody has freaking feelings. Like, let's get over it as a society. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to help with guys. I've been meeting a bunch of, young, impressionable men in the area. And, I met one who, he was engaged. His fiance left him and, just told me, it's okay to be upset about it. He's just trying to knock it off as, everything's all right. I was like, it's okay to be upset about this. Have you sat and cried about it? He's like, no, we don't do that. It's like, try it. It sounds stupid, but just, go and be in your feelings. It's okay to, the woman you thought you were going to marry, left you. It's okay to be totally bummed out about that and have your feelings and not just go out and, act like it never happened. So confront it and don't just compile it and shove it down. And that, I think that's one of our biggest challenges as a society, is we don't confront our feelings and we just push them down and move on. And I know I had that problem for a long time. I did that forever. I would never confront or face my feelings and just bottle them up and push them down. No, I'm fine. No, I really wasn't fine.
Well, there's two things. I mean, as a society today, we are so much closer than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here 1,200 miles away from you, and we're still able to communicate through video. We can send emails, we can send text messages, we can do phone calls, we can, technically send a letter, and it still gets there in a day or two. So as we are becoming closer, it is that much more important to be able to manage and hold on to your feelings, or not hold on to your feelings, but understand your feelings and not hold on to them. Because the moment that you start compressing them and, just repressing them into, trying to act like they don't exist, it's building tension, it's building stress. And if you cannot voice, this is how I feel, this is what is bothering me, this is where the confrontation is in the moment. If I don't come to you, a perfect example, it happened this morning, is we had a moment of confrontation. Point A is very stressed about the situation. I'm stressed about the situation. The other person is now aware that two people are stressed and is now becoming stressed about the situation. And rather than pointing fingers and trying to solve it one person or the next or sending nasty text messages, it's just a phone call to voice my side, point A side, point B side. And now it's out of the air. All right, carry on. Go be adults. Go be men. Go do the shit that you got to do. But now I feel better because I'm not hanging on to it all day long. It's
Sure.
not controlling all of my reactions through the rest of the day. And it's also not putting me in a place where, if the scenario happens very often as men, something pisses you off first thing in the morning. By 9 o'clock in the morning, something else pisses you off. By 10 o'clock in the morning, something else has struck a nerve. And by 2 o'clock, you're starting to just downright become miserable and aggressive and irritated, and everything's miserable. And on the way home, now you're sitting in traffic and you're all festering about all these things. And then you come home and, scenario again, you walk in the door and your spouse is completely content. Are you more likely to just completely blow up and go off the handle? Or are you more willing to go up and say, I had an amazing day. I missed you. Let's have a great night now. If you don't understand your feelings, the likelihood of you just blowing up and completely setting off another you know, disruptive upturn for the day is very possible. So if you can't
Exactly.
control emotions and feelings, it is very, very hard to have a great day, especially tomorrow, because now you're gonna be pissed off tomorrow too.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna keep compounding and being trickling. So, and to summarize all that, is being able to just handle emotions, make a phone call, talk about it, air it out, write it down. Uh, I've resorted, just for everybody to be aware of it. Like, I've had some moments where I couldn't sort it out. I had no idea what I was feeling. I couldn't write about it. I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't put thoughts together in a way to come up with a solution on my own because I'm solitary. I wanted to try and figure it out myself, right?
Mhm.
So if I can't do that, I can't function, and I am no longer a participating member in society. I'm just barely getting by, and now I'm wasting everybody else's oxygen. And there's two trains of thoughts with that. Is one is now you're going depressive. You're going to start going down that path of that's how you feel every single day. And option B is you're so frustrated, but you seek something greater and you can't find a solution. You need to go to somebody. And there's been times where I've driven down the road, screaming, crying, blasting music, trying to, run phone calls with somebody who'd listen. I've also just said, you know what, to hell with this. I'm going to give it to something greater. I'm going to go sit in church. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to listen. And I've done that too. And oftentimes there's been people around me that would just reach out a hand and say, everything's all right. Whatever you're going through, we're here together. Two random strangers willing to reach out in a human kind manner. It's like, wow, I'm not alone. I don't have to do this on my own. My feelings matter to somebody. So as men, it does only justice to support one another and be able to talk about that stuff willingly, openly.
Mhm.
Nothing's off the table because chances are, as men, you deal with more stuff, both, you know, downright dirty, aggressive, mean, chaotic, whatever the thoughts may be, is chances are you as a man struggle with that more than females do. I mean, females bear a lot of stress, don't get me wrong, but as a man, if you can't talk about it, you're going to compound up some stuff. You're going to have some thoughts that you can't speak to anybody about. And it's almost secretive and it's almost taboo to talk about some of these things because you might be seen as crazy.
Yeah, no, you're right there. Women are definitely way more likely to go and talk to their girlfriend or whatever about their feelings, whereas guys, a lot of us, maybe we don't have anybody, or maybe we do have somebody, but we're too ashamed to go speak that. So that's why guys, when guys are such a high rate of alcoholism, drug addicts, suicide, it's terrible. I think if the collective, us as men, we could just share our feelings more and have somebody to talk to, go express our feelings rather than just bottle it up, or drink a bottle of something or go out and do drugs. I think if they had somebody to talk to, I think that could change a lot of people's lives, or
Yeah.
not be scared to talk to somebody. I think that's the thing is, I think too many people are scared or ashamed to say how they really feel, because I know I felt that for a long time. I was ashamed to say how I really felt, and the pain I went through in my past marriage, and the different things I went through with that, and I was thought lesser of myself because but I shouldn't have. It was okay to feel what I felt. Everything I felt was real, legit. It was just I felt I shouldn't tell that to anybody. So I bottled it up for
Yeah.
a long time and never expressed it. And once I started expressing things, I was like, holy shit, that weight comes off your shoulders and you feel so much lighter, and you're able to function so much better, because it really does, when you hold all these emotions in, it really does cloud up your mind, and you start to not think rationally, and just it really can mess up your everyday and just compound and get worse and worse the more you bottle it up.
Yeah. I mean, just the things that build that up and build tension is so much more than somebody, ticking you off or sitting in traffic. I mean, it's, you don't go to the gym for a couple days. You start resorting back to that old way, that old habit, and now you're starting to think less of yourself. You're not in the perfect situation that you want to be in, and a lot of it comes from just taking some sort of action. So if you don't know to go, if you maybe not don't know, maybe you don't know that you have somebody to talk to, or maybe you can't go talk to somebody. It's what kind of something can I do to help better the situation? Maybe it is going to the gym. Maybe it's going out to a five-star restaurant, dress up, go get a haircut, clean up, put on good cologne, go sit out and just have dinner with yourself to think about it. See the people around you, see that, and just res- kind of remove yourself from that situation and look at it from a third party and say, what would this type of person that I want to be do? How would he react? And, there's been a lot of times if I don't have the thoughts together, it's like, I'm going to just go take myself out on a date. I'm going to go sit, have good
Yeah.
food and just enjoy it, because at the moment, there's nothing else I can do to make myself feel better other than this. And that's maybe not a perfect situation every single day, but a couple times I'm not ashamed of it.
Oh yeah.
And
I think that's an important thing that we all need to learn to do is learn to be content and happy with doing things on our own and not have to be around somebody else, not have to have a partner. Are all those things nice? Yes. But is there always that opportunity? No. Um, I've been single for over a year now. It's the longest amount of time I've ever been single. But there's been a lot of freaking times where I'm lonely, where I just wish there was someone here just to sit and talk to at night. But I've learned to be content and be happy being alone, being by myself. And I think that's going to set me so much better for when I do eventually find a new partner. One of my bad toxic habits was always jumping from relationship to relationship. I never knew how to fully be on my own. I never really lived alone, never walked through life alone. I always would get out of a relationship, a couple months later, be in the next one. So taking this time over the past year and a month now to be alone and learn to be happy with myself, it's been so freaking valuable. I think a lot of us just don't know how to function alone.
some of us don't know how to function with partners either. So there's, it's
Yes, there's a caveat. Yes.
so it's a lot of give and take, but it I think at the start of our podcast and every episode we talk about living intentionally is what decisions am I going to do? What kind of person am I going to be? And how am I going to get there? And, you know, some things take time. All good things take time. There's no doubt about that. Your success is directly proportionate to the time horizon that you set on it. So if I think that tomorrow I'm going to be the wealthiest man alive and I'm going to be so happy and I'm going to be content, that is a very, very, very sour and unrealistic goal. It's going to take more than just tomorrow to get there. But if tomorrow I wake up a little bit different than I did today, I'm chipping away at the percentages of likelihood that I'm going to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got to take pretty much most things in life. You got to take the long outlook approach to it. Anything worthwhile isn't just going to happen overnight. Of course, there's some. You win the lottery. Well, most of those people freaking blow it. To be successful, to do anything, it all takes time. And you got to be willing to, put in the hard work for that timeline to happen. We got to get rid of this. Now with technology nowadays, we pretty much have everything in our fingertips. We're such a right now society. I think a lot of us have lost tune of things actually taking a while. Everybody just wants this overnight success, and it's just not really a true sustainable thing. Yes, there's overnight successes, but if you look at the statistics of them, most of them aren't around for that long. You hear about them when they blow up. They're super successful overnight, and then a couple of years down the road, done. It's these people that really put in the long-term work that makes it sustainable.
Absolutely. And it's that much more worth it when you do get there. That
Yeah.
It took a long time, but we did it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about the as my mom would say, it's all about the journey, not the destination.
And that's absolutely fair. It's not uh going and eating a bunch of junk food and then expecting to have a different body. It's going to be eating good food. It's going to be doing it consistently. It's going to be putting in some work. It's going to take a completely different path. But when you get there and you're like, we made the comment the other night of how we eat, and it's like you could eat processed food and you feel like crap all the time. It's like you could go out and try and shift, and then when you eat good food, you never want to go back to the processed food because it's just a good grilled chicken breast tastes way better than dino nuggets.
I've been eating a lot of canned chicken. Canned chicken's pretty good.
Yeah. Canned chicken on quesadillas was always my go-to.
Okay. Tonight I made
Yeah,
canned chicken. Took canned chicken with some egg and some Parmesan cheese, molded them up, put them in the air fryer. Pretty tasty.
bet that was good. So I got a kick the other day, very sentimental and nostalgic of pickled eggs. I was immediately thinking about deer camp, and you don't get the pickled eggs from the store, and you don't necessarily want to have bubble guts and laying under the sheets blowing bubbles. But I made some homemade pickled onions and I used the pickle juice to then pickle the eggs and they came out perfect and they're like the best snack ever. So it's like you can go to the cabinet and you can eat something sweet, or it's like I have a pickled egg. It's kind of sweet, it's kind of salty, kind of savory, but it's the perfect snack. So I've been hitting those pretty hard, and they don't tear up your stomach.
Huh. Now are they red beet eggs or just pickled eggs?
No, just straight pickled eggs. So I did the
Okay.
pickled red onions, and it's funny because I pickled red onions, and then after you pickled them, they turn really pink and purple, and they're really pretty. And then after you take the juice from them and you mix them with the new pickling solution, and you put the eggs in it, the onions go completely transparent. And I threw in some jalapenos and some garlic, and I don't remember what else I put in there, but they're really mild. It's just a very light pickled egg. It's not pungent or potent or anything. They're just really sweet and just really good to snack on. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to make a batch of them for deer camp.
Yeah, perfect. I'm excited. That'll be here before we freaking know it.
We
Um,
are anxious and ready.
yeah, yeah. Something just popped into my mind, when in the beginning of the episode said we wanted to talk about health, wealth, and happiness. I think we covered a good amount of that, but the definition of wealth. So everybody's perspective and definition of wealth is different. It's amazing. I talk to different people. What type of wealth do you really want? What do you define as successful? I've heard a range of everything from 100,000 to a billion. So every person you talk to, everybody says they want to be wealthy, but and everybody just thinks tons and tons of money. And it doesn't even have to be money. It can be family. Some people, they don't really give a crap about money. I mean, money definitely does help, but wealth is definitely a big, broad spectrum, and everybody's definition is different. That's something I've
I,
learned is.
I think in short, I've had this conversation, I think, prior to us starting the podcast, and a couple years ago you and I talked about it, about an empire and money and objects. And I would tell you now, as time has passed, my definition of wealth is abundance,
Mhm.
living in abundance. There's two trains of thought. Are you going to go out and spend that abundance on yourself and objects, or are you going to spend that abundance on giving back? Because with abundance, abundance overflows. Abundance always comes back. Um, they say once you learn how to make a substantial amount of money, you never forget it, and you can always go back and make it. And you know, I think I've had the same conversations with people about a dollar value and it's X percentages and it's this and it's that. I'll be honest, I don't want any of that. When I say I want wealth, I want to know that we never have to worry or we never have to struggle like we've known to grow to, right? Or we've grown up from. So it's probably definitely some materialist thing. But at the end of the day, I am wealthy. I have a pond. I have a garden. I have a chicken house. I got a vehicle in the driveway. I got a house to come home to. I have a job to go to in the mornings if I'm not irritated with it. And then once a week, twice a week, I get to talk to a best friend. Got all that I need. And you know what? If I can give any of that to somebody else, they can show up in the damn driveway and I'll give them all that I have.
Yeah.
So I think, it's going to be a perception for every single person to think about. Um, One thing I thought about on that topic is, to quickly and briefly give some, remembrance here. Phil Robertson had passed away, a man that had a very similar journey. Grew up from next to nothing and had a vision in his head and had some bad habits. And he gave back every chance that he could and lived a very simple life. And in thinking of role models and thinking of types of people that you want to become, there's a man that all he ever asked for was a house on the river and a good, loving wife and kids. And he had all that and so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, he didn't take any of it with him. Now, in his perspective, he studied the Bible. He followed the word of Jesus. He believed that Jesus was resurrected and that with a man who gave and did and served others and had rocks cast on him and was buried and then resurrected, he believed that he would be there too. And his definition of wealth was an eternal life, that at some point after his passing, he would have all that he ever wanted. And, we talk about, new t-shirt ideas. Well done, good and faithful servant is something that is an idea of an affirmation, but there's only one person that's ever going to tell you that. You'll have a bunch of people that tell you that you're proud of you. You'll have a bunch of people that tell you they appreciate you. You'll meet a bunch of people that say you are doing fantastic. You are a great guy. You're the most successful man I've ever imagined. You're the type of person I want to become. But for somebody to tell you, well done, good and faithful servant, means you served a lot of people, and there is a definition of wealth that was tied to that. That's as wealthy as you could become. So giving all that you have towards a cause, it will come back. And I've thought about that a lot recently just because I've had some time to think about it, time to study it, and then also some influence on it of what kind of path do I really want? I
Mm-hmm.
think you and I had talked about it early on in a podcast of what was on our vision board. Yeah, I definitely want a 40-some-foot Freeman or nice sport fishing boat and nice little skiff and nice truck and this and that. And it's like, in this moment, if for the next 50 years I had nothing else, would I be content? I would be.
Yeah.
There's no dollar value tied to it because at the end of the day, that dollar value is not going to mean anything to anyone.
Yeah.
And another thing on that thought is adverse side of that is, if nothing else, what do you want on your headstone? What type of person do you want to be remembered by? Is it going to say, "Oh, the wealthiest man I knew"?
No. I want to give back. That's something my definition of wealth has definitely changed over a lot over the past year. I just want to have the freedom to not have to work and be able to go out and make the world a better freaking place. Whether it's going out and helping children with different funds, going helping the local food banks, the men's shelter, instead of working at a business, out working, changing the world, in
It's
little that I can.
That's almost a redundant statement. You want to have enough wealth so you don't have to work, but you want to work. What it sounds like is you don't want to have a job.
Yes. Yes. I want to have an abundance of money that I can give it back, that I have enough to sustain my lifestyle and plenty, more than plenty to give back and help others. Because, you only need so much money, and there's so many people out there that could benefit way more, than what I need. So, I want to be able to exactly who I'm going to give it to, how I'm going to give it. I don't have that all figured out yet, but I've been talking to a lot of people who just have different foundations and different ways to give back to the community, and I absolutely love it. I see the little impacts they're making. Whether it's a guy here in town that runs the Boys and Girls Club and has a big foundation to help all them, or a guy I was on podcast with 2 weeks ago who has a multi-billion-dollar fund to save trafficked kids all over the world. He did 20 some undercover operations and saved hundreds and hundreds of kids from all over the world, using a lot of his own money. He's a billionaire, and him and his wife full time now, all they do is travel the world saving children, do things like that. I think it's freaking amazing. You get to a point where you have what you need now, be able to go give it all back. That's I think that's what my definition of wealth has become.
What's your definition of happiness then?
What's my definition of happiness? Being able to do the things I enjoy and not having to worry about, I wake up tomorrow and I don't have to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal from. Where am I going to go work? What am I going to do? I have opportunities, and I'm freaking happy and content. I know I have so many good people in my life. I think what I'm living now is pretty much happiness. The only other thing I want, honestly, down the road is just a life partner. After that, I think I'm pretty damn well set.
It's good. I think that's a great way to say that, and that's my traveling across the country and seeking something greater has always been the pursuit of happiness. And I think the easiest way to summarize that is you get kicked in the balls enough with a couple instances that you become miserable and you really get down in the dumps, and then you start seeing the shining light of all the good things around you. The pursuit of happiness is something that you have to acknowledge in the moment. There's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days, and you just have to consistently tell yourself that you're happy. And if you're not happy, then start isolating the things that are not good for you, pursuing happiness. It's
Yeah,
a little redundant, but at the same time, it's like, are you happy? No, I can't be. Well, you should try it.
yeah,
I'm going to wake up and remind myself that I'm happy and I'm content. I have all that I need. Life is good.
exactly right. That's something I've been realizing, is that I wake up in the morning and I pretty much have everything I want in life. There's some things that I maybe like on a little larger scale, but if I had to continue living the way I am now, I'm freaking blessed. I'm truly happy. There's a few things in my life, like I said earlier in the episode, a couple internal things that I need to work on still, but other than that, I'm good.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to let off and cut off for the next one.
It does. Yeah. I think about it a lot. I sit here now, and right now I'm sitting next to the pond, looking at a garden, looking at chicken coop, and it's like, I don't know what else I'd need.
That's
Maybe a couple of new
fantastic.
pairs of socks and underwear, but aside from that, I don't need anything else.
The little things. The little
Yeah,
things.
we're down to the wire if we're asking for new socks and underwear, but I guess that's just part of aging.
I always get excited when I get socks. One thing my grandma has always gotten me throughout my whole life is she always gets me for like birthday and Christmas. She gets me deodorant, body wash, and socks, and I absolutely love it. It's the greatest gift.
It is. I think that was my Christmas presents. I asked for socks and sweets, and I got these lemon blueberry bars that were through the moon, and I still think about them all the time.
Awesome.
And now I'm even still wearing the socks I got for Christmas too, so I'm excited.
There you go. Sometimes it's those little things are so much more than the big things.
Well, Do we have any last closing thoughts, things that we may have missed that may be an opportunity for next week's episode? Anything that we can?
I think if you're not happy with your life, take a deep inventory of what you're happy with and what you're not. You can always change your life around. You don't have to go through thinking doom and gloom every day. I mean, I know people go through tough times and there's unfortunate circumstances, but it's most things are temporary. It may be temporaries, a year or two, but still in the grand scheme of life, that's temporary. And just tomorrow's another day. You can change things if you really want to. You just got to be willing to take that leap and make the change to make your life better. So just stay positive and take an inventory of what you want in your life and what you don't want in your life.
Absolutely. I think it goes without saying, as always, is just anybody who's in that moment or needing some time to escape your thoughts, just go get out in nature. Go out, take a walk. There's tons and tons and tons of property across the United States, whether it be BLM land, state forest, national parks. Just go out and take a hike, get some fresh air, and enjoy it. As another episode sponsored by Aramos Outdoor Gear. That's one of our biggest passions, and it brings us to a point where we can talk about this stuff. And a lot of the things that we talk about are fueled by just the solitude and peacefulness of nature and some time to get away with our friends and families and loved ones and get to a point where we really appreciate all that we have and the gratitude and enjoyment that we get out of life now. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love it. Well said. Yeah, get outside, enjoy the outdoors. It does wonder for the mind and soul, the heart, everything.
It's essential.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. Well, everybody, thank you again as always. And we look forward to seeing you again on the next one.
Thank you, everyone. We greatly appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, whatever you're doing, and we'll follow you on the next one.
Bye.